Kia ora. Welcome everybody to this month's Techbytes. It's wonderful to be with you again this week. This month I'm talking with Bridget Snelling from Xero. Great to talk to you, Bridget. I know you're incredibly busy with your big role at this iconic New Zealand tech company that's called Xero. Would you mind introducing yourself a little, including a description of what you do there and what your normal day looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, kia ora. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Bridget Snelling. I'm the country manager of Xero. I'm very privileged to have this role in this, as you say, iconic Kiwi company, born 18 years ago in a lounge in Wellington and now a global business. So, a company that we're very proud of, and I hope most Kiwis are very proud of. So, what does a typical day look like for me? Well, I think it sounds like a cliche, but no day is really that typical. My role, I'm responsible for the revenue generation out of the New Zealand market. So that looks like overseeing our sales, local marketing, operations, basically all the functions that help drive our operating plan and our strategy in this region and generate the revenue that we report on. So it's a great job. It's a busy job. My week would be divided into a combination of overseeing the sales team and working with my head of sales, supporting the team to achieve their targets. That includes lots of conversations with our accounting and bookkeeping partners, as well as small businesses. Then another proportion of my week is focused on coaching the team and mentoring and having one-to-ones with my team and others in the broader team. And then there's also part of my role is advocacy on behalf of small businesses. So Xero, we partner with other companies. We do a lot of work with government in terms of trying to influence policy that will support the small businesses of Aotearoa. So it's a varied role, and every week is a little bit different, but very rewarding.
And we should say that Xero has been a big partner in the work we've been doing with the Digital Boost Alliance, and so we're looking at where that goes next. And you're obviously part of that conversation. But look, this is about you just right now. Let's go back to the beginning. Look, I did cheat, and I did look at your LinkedIn to see where you got started, because it's always really interesting to see where people's journeys go, because none of us end up where we started. I mean, I started as a chartered accountant, and after 18 months,
Wow.
yeah, after 18 months, I realized it was boring, and so I went into technology. But it's been a very useful ticket to have through my life. But when you started, I see it was law. So what got you into law?
That's
As being
right.
one of
Yeah, well, look, I mean, growing up, when I finished high school, my careers advisor said, you're smart, so you should be a doctor or a lawyer. And, that was kind of it back then. And my sister had gone to law school. I'm the youngest of three kids. So my sister had gone to law school. My brother had gone to law school. My dad is a now retired GP and my mum's a dietitian. So we have a medical family. And I think, it's often you are attracted to the opposite of what your parents have done. My dad, as a GP, worked incredibly long hours and obviously, an incredible profession looking after people the way he has done. But for me, I thought, okay, well, I don't really want to do that. So why not? I'll just do law too. So I went to law school more by accident, really, than by intention, just because I wanted to get a degree. So I did a BA LLB. I went to Canterbury and Auckland University as well. And then from there, I followed that similar route to other law graduates. I became a law clerk at a big firm in Auckland, went on to become a lawyer and work with them for a couple of years. But similar to you, I think, Craig, I never felt passionate about the work. I enjoyed the work and I really enjoyed my degree, but I looked at the people I worked for and I didn't want to grow up and be them. I wanted to do something a bit more creative. And also, and I've said this on previous podcasts, the culture didn't really suit me. There was a clash of values, and some of the stuff you've heard about big law firms, we've all heard the stories, and I experienced some of that myself, and had a couple of really disappointing kind of interactions with partners at the firm I worked with, and so I was really fortunate that I kind of went to a party one night, met someone who ran a PR company, and then he rang me the next day and said, "Hey, well, you said you might want to get out of law. Why don't you come work with me?" So it was a happy accident that I got a segue out of law and into PR.
That's great. I mean, it's interesting through my career. You said you're a little bit surprised when I said I'd been a CA, but the number of people you come across who have got those degrees like law and accounting as their core, as their base
Yes.
before they get into something else. I mean, it's great way to learn. Not that I'd ever go into law, but I do remember being in a negotiation when I used to work at Telstra Clear with negotiating with the telecom of old, and just about everybody from telecom. They weren't. None of them were in legal roles, but they were all lawyers. So it was fascinating. I
Yeah, I
suppose
mean,
that's
you're
just
right. It's a great prerequisite, for life. Having a professional degree is a really good starting point. And I think that's how I always looked at it. I really enjoyed my degree. I did my honours in media law, which I loved. And I made some really good friends as well through that period. So I no regrets. It was great training for me. I think at law, probably like accounting, teaches you a very strong work ethic and being, attention to detail and all of those skills that are actually really transferable and useful and have been really useful throughout my career.
it also means I can jump into Xero and I can understand what's going on with
Yeah,
the finance
exactly.
manager saying, tell her he has told me off once or twice for trying to do things that I should know better. Never mind. So, so then look, there's a journey, obviously. We all go through a journey. So how does a journey look like that takes you from that start through to this senior role? I mean, can you talk us through some of those important decision points along the way? You've already talked about why
Absolutely. Yeah, sure.
and advice why you did those things.
Yeah, but I think so. As a person, and this is something I've probably learned as I've got older. I'm not sure I knew this at 25. So at 25, when I decided to leave law, it was a big decision. I'd spent 7 years or something, 5 years at university doing a double degree, and then 2 years working as a lawyer, and it's a big investment as well. And so at that point, deciding to leave was a big deal for me, and it was quite scary. But in my heart, I knew that if I didn't make a change at that point, then I'd probably end up, another 5 years down the track before I did. And my sister, who was a partner in the firm that I worked in, said to me, "Get out before the money gets good." So it was good advice. So I was lucky, as I said, to get this job in PR, and I worked for that company for about 8 months. It was the beginning of the GFC, and there was a lot of work supporting the collapse of finance companies, but there wasn't that much other than that in terms of work. And I saw a job advertised at TVNZ. As I said, I'd done my honours in media law. I'd always had a love for media, and so I decided to apply, and I ended up getting this junior publicity and marketing role. And that was really pivotal for me because I spent 8 years at TVNZ and worked in a range of different roles. So I started in junior roles launching the digital channels, which were the TV channels that we launched to move people off analog television. You remember when that happened? And it was a great experience because we were a small team within the broader team. And so I got to learn the whole gambit of marketing really quickly. And I was responsible for, interacting with government, brand, PR, publicity, so I really got a lot of experience in a short time frame. And then from there, I had other jobs at TVNZ. So I moved into more senior marketing roles. I had a stint working in the sales team, leading production funding. And that was really great experience for me at TVNZ. And then I had two babies while I worked at TVNZ. And I ended up following one of my bosses from TVNZ to Orion Health. And so that's how I kind of got into tech. I went there as the global product marketing and actually sort of 2 months into my role, Ian McRae, the founder, asked me to take on investor relations as well for my sins because it was a newly launched, newly listed company. And so I got a lot of great experience there too. So I think, those decisions were made by the people I would be working for. So I followed a great boss, and I always think for me, who I'm working for or learning from is one of the key criteria for me in terms of my job enjoyment, my work enjoyment, and kind of the leadership that I see. So that was the reason I went to Orion Health. And then from there, I moved to ANZ. And actually, ANZ Bank, I went for an interview, and then soon after that, decided to pull out because my husband and I decided we'd try and have a third baby. And so I rang up and said, look, I've got to pull out because I'm planning to have a baby. And this was a really great moment. The recruiter said, oh, look, the hiring manager, so Astrid, who was going to be would have been my boss, rang me and said, look, I hear you want to pull out. I just want to say, I want to offer you the job. I know you plan to get pregnant, and that's okay. If you turn up pregnant, that's fine. And I thought, wow, gee, things are really changing. And I did actually arrive 10 weeks pregnant, as it turned out. And So I was there for 7 months, took my maternity leave, and then went back and had 4 years there. So that's why I went to ANZ. Great role doing B2B marketing, and then also took on brand marketing a couple of years in. And then from there, saw a role, was approached about this role at Xero as the marketing director. And Xero, all I knew was that it was an iconic company. Didn't know all that much, but knew that Craig Hudson was a revered leader. And so after my interview with him, I was sold that I wanted to move to Xero. So I think in terms of my decisions, I follow my gut, and I also look for my leader. So that's really important to me, who I'm working for or with, and what impact I can have, and how much enjoyment I'll get out of the role. So they're the reasons that have guided my decisions.
Yeah, look, Craig Hudson is a great guy. I mean, he's a personal friend, but also he did one of the initial Techbytes with us, actually, right back in
Hey.
COVID days. Yes, he did it from his backyard.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy. We still keep in touch quite frequently, so it's really nice.
Now I want to cover some other issues. We've talked about your career. We will come back to you, but I want to talk about some specific issues in the tech industry at the moment. And I ask
Yeah,
everybody these ones, and ones we're very keen to work on. It's definitely one of our six key things, which is there's an issue around of lack of skilled staff in all areas of tech. Not
yeah.
just the hard tech stuff, and not enough women, Maori and Pacifica. So what sort of things do you think we can do to improve that situation?
Yeah, well, it is. You're right. It's a issue, and it's something that's on our mind at Xero a lot as well. And we have policies that focus on diversity and inclusion, and so we try and ensure that we are interviewing a broad range of candidates for every role, and we have onus on our recruitment team to be looking for diverse candidates. But more broadly than that, I think it comes back for me to education. And I think, we have a problem with education in our country broadly, but particularly when it comes to STEM, getting girls interested in science and technology and obviously tech as a career is a challenge. It's not just girls though, it's also boys. I think at a young age there can be a bias against certain subjects, maybe due to they don't like the teacher or it seems boring. And for me, I think kids end up making decisions about areas that they study in high school, which can mean that the sciences are not as popular as perhaps some other courses. So I think there's a fundamental issue in education that we need to be teaching our kids that there are opportunities in tech, and actually tech is the second largest export industry for our country, right? So it's incredible, and the future is absolutely so tech focused that I think education in schools is really important. And so it's not just what they're being taught, but it's also the role models and the people that they're seeing and understanding the breadth of career opportunities within the industry. With Māori and Pacifica, same thing. I think it's making sure that we are getting people out to areas that have large populations of Māori and Pacifica to tell them about the careers that they can, that they can work towards, tell them about the opportunities, and also over-index in recruitment policies and practices to try and make sure that we are inclusive and creating a working environment that's also inclusive of different cultures, respecting that there are different ways of working, and just making sure that our young people know that there's some exciting opportunities for them ahead. So, yeah, as an industry, I would love to see tech companies join forces and do a roadshow around the country to schools in all regions to educate them about the possibilities of tech and the possibilities of the different careers. You don't have to be a developer or an engineer. You can be in marketing or in finance or, in sales in a tech business. It's still a tech career. So, yeah, I mean, I think we have got a problem, and I think every company is doing different things to try and solve for this. But as an industry, it's really important. I'm obviously on the board of NZ Tech as well, and that's something that we're talking about too, broadly. How do we make sure that we've got inclusive practices and education that's bringing diverse people into the profession or into the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look at us. We didn't start there. Here we are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So the other key area that we're working on, and you are too, as the head of Xero and Aotearoa, is you get to see how small and medium enterprises are faring in our economy, and
Yeah.
they make a huge part of your customer base. So how do you think, as the head of Xero here in New Zealand, how do you think we are doing against other nations in terms of taking up digital solutions to help those small businesses in their business? In their business.
Yeah, so this is an area that I speak about a lot because it is really dear to my heart. And as you said, our customer base are SMBs. You know, they are small and medium-sized businesses. We work with accountants and bookkeepers, and so they're customers as well. But we reach small businesses often through their accounting and bookkeeping partners. And we also have a great data set. So we have an aggregated data set and anonymized data set at Xero, this Xero Small Business Insights, that gives us a really good indication as to how small businesses are faring. So on the one hand, we know with the macroeconomic environment, things have been really, really tough for small businesses. And that also goes hand in hand with the fact that our productivity is much lower than other countries. So we, sit below average across the OECD for productivity across our SMBs. And then we think about, well, what are the solves for productivity? One of the solves is digitalization, the adoption of digital tools to make people more efficient and more effective. And actually, when we look at digitalization rankings, Aotearoa New Zealand sits pretty low compared to Australia, compared to some Nordic countries, and we've dropped in our rankings as well. So we actually, even though we have this mentality of number 8 wire and innovation, and we've got some amazing people, like Sir Peter Beck, and we look at these entrepreneurs. As a nation, we're actually not as forward-thinking and as adoptive of technology as we think we are. So we don't adopt digital tools the same way other countries do. And I think for me, that's something that we absolutely need to overcome. So I talk a lot in Xero, we speak a lot about digitalization, encouraging digital tools adoptions for small businesses to have greater output, to basically spend every hour working doing something that only a human can do. And obviously with the advancements in generative AI, we're seeing more and more incredible tech, not only in the Xero platform, but in other apps and services that can really help businesses run more efficiently and effectively, have greater output, be more productive. So yeah, we're not as far advanced as I would like us to be, and as we want to be, as our nation of kind of really forward-thinking people, but we do lag behind. So it's one of the key challenges we need to face into.
Okay, well, let me ask you to broaden that out a bit further. So we talked about SMEs and some of the things. You started talking about some of the bigger issues, but let's just go broader. You are, a digital leader in our nation. People will listen to you. What big ideas do you think a country like ours should focus on to be able to move up that digital competitive ladder?
Yeah, well, look, I think we don't really need big ideas, and this is the thing. The big idea, I think, is that we need to think about what is the future for our country. Agri is number one, but it won't be forever. The pressure on the agri industry is immense. Tech could be how Aotearoa New Zealand differentiates itself on the world stage. But that will require policy settings and government investment to set ourselves up with the right infrastructure and the right immigration policies to attract talent into our country, to really ensure that we've got the right people and the right education for those of us already in the country to put us in a really strong position. You look at Ireland and they have policy settings that really encourage a digital economy and tech investment. We need the same thing here. So we need to kind of set our strategy as a nation, I think, about where we want to be, what we want to be known for in the future. We need to make sure we've got the right education to support careers in tech. And then we also need more capital investment into small businesses. So, I love going to the high tech awards and seeing these incredible entrepreneurs who've come up with such incredible ideas. But so frequently I hear from them, it's so hard to get investment. It's so hard to get money to grow. They get to a certain level, and then actually to grow and take on the world, you need considerable investment. And so I think that's absolutely one of the key challenges we have is getting investment, not just from local, private equity or other investment capital investment firms, but foreign investment as well into the country to help those businesses grow. So big idea might be just agreeing on our strategy and going for it, but then lots of smaller ideas. Encouraging digital adoption, encouraging tech investment, making sure we've got the right kind of education. So I think it's kind of a broader picture, but we've got the potential. We just need to make sure that we're taking those steps in the right direction towards really making ourselves a tech superpower, which I completely believe we could be.
All right, let's look to wind this up. I come back to you, leading a large company, but not just that. What are some of the key learnings that you've had over time that you'd wished you'd known earlier and that you'd want to share?
Oh, look, I feel like I'm learning every day something new. But look, some of the key things that stick out is from a business, but also from a personal perspective. I think over the years I've learned one is consistency is key. Don't change things too often. And I mean that from a brand perspective or from an operations perspective, from a team perspective. Change is unsettling. And while often it's necessary, there's also something about being consistent to get results. And I talk about that from with my marketing hat on, from a brand perspective. Consistency in brand is really, really important for customers, but also from a people perspective, trying to keep consistency in terms of the way we're doing things, obviously optimizing those over time, but not changing things for change's sake. So consistency is one. Another one is always listen to your customers. And, I think it's really important. I think so often businesses make decisions and they think they've put the customer first, but they haven't. And it's so important to really listen to what customers want. You can't always give them everything they want, but listen and understand. So spending time with customers is really, really important. I think the third thing that's really important to me is making sure that you have a really strong team culture. And culture to me is about, the intersection between care for people and high performance. You can't have high performance without care, and you can't really have care without a focus on high performance. And so that intersection is really important, and a really strong culture where people show up as themselves is really critical. And I think the fourth thing that sticks out to me as well is just make sure you're having fun along the way. Life is so serious. So often we are just focused on, the next thing we've got to deliver. But it's a cliche. We say it all the time. You spend a lot of time at work with the people you work with. And if you're not loving what you're doing or it's not inspiring you, then you need to ask questions about whether what you're doing is the right thing for you. So making sure you're having fun as well and not taking things like too seriously. Hey, don't take yourself too seriously, but take your work seriously.
Yes, it's a good point. Well, look, it's been a real privilege and a joy to speak with you, Bridget. Is there any last comments or thoughts you'd like to share?
Well, just thank you, Craig, for having me. It's been such a pleasure speaking with you. I'm very honoured that you asked me to be on your podcast. So thank you for the opportunity.